As expected, with that amount of rain in such a short period of time, the sewer systems across the island were overwhelmed, as was our system in Montreal-West. It resulted in many flooded basements all across town and caused many other non-sewer related problems as well. For example, the staircase between Courtney and Ronald Drive was almost destroyed. In the very early hours of Friday morning, there was a major flood on Brock South between Broughton and Avon. After the fire department, the SPVM, and our Public Works Department evaluated the speed and extent of the flooding, it was very apparent that the pipe was not one of our 4-inch water mains, but rather a City of Montreal 14-inch main that runs along Broughton. We immediately called our contact number and asked that a Montreal plumber be dispatched to close the valves. After their plumber arrived, he refused to touch the valve because he was only authorized to work on pipes of 10 inches or less. Montreal themselves is also so concerned about dealing with this pipe size that they have delegated that work to a specialized external firm. At that point, considering the amount of water accumulating on the block, Public Works broke protocol and shut the valves on Montreal's pipe, and the water began to recede. The town sent a full contingent of Public Works employees on site Friday morning to clear as much of the street damage as possible. Our communications at the beginning were resident by resident. On Tuesday, following a group letter we received from the residents on Brock South, we started communicating in one email to the whole group. That first communication clearly stated that the pipe belonged to Montreal and they were responsible for fixing it. They had their special contractor on site on Tuesday. It also stated that we would ensure that garbage and recycling continued as normal, even if it meant our crews would do the pickups themselves. We confirmed that we would initiate special pickups town-wide to remove large debris, and we sent our trucks in very often in the days afterwards. As soon as the street sweeping machine was repaired, it was dispatched to Brock to make several runs until the level of silt on the street was normalized. Our residents were angry because they thought we refused to close the pipe, that we took too long to act, and that it could have been prevented. The reality is that we were not authorized to touch Montreal's network. Shutting off a pipe of that size has repercussions far removed from our town. The variations in water pressure could have caused multiple breaks elsewhere in Montreal-West and Montreal, and could have easily affected the quality of the drinking water without it being quickly detected. That is why there are procedures before a pipe like that is shut down. After a couple of hours of waiting for Montreal to send the appropriate people on site to shut the pipe, we took the chance and shut it anyways. That was a huge risk. Many residents were angry with me personally because I didn't rush to the site. While I was dealing with my own flooded basement, I thought my time was much better spent helping our teams coordinate communications and response. I wanted to ensure that our teams had the tools they needed to best support our affected residents. Councillors Small Pennefather and Feeney did visit the Brock residents south on Tuesday the 18th and helped convey the residents' concerns to me and the rest of the Montreal-West team so to act more efficiently. We have since been in contact with the City of Montreal's administrative team and also on the political side to ensure that the responses we receive and the interventions that must be undertaken are enacted swiftly and securely to minimize any future problems. In terms of responsibility, our residents were advised that they had 15 days from the time of the damage to file their claims. As well, we advised Montreal that we will do the same. On a different subject, the contractor will start work on decommissioning the arena in the next few days. The first phases will be to bring their trailers onto Hodgson Field and to start securing the area. The town will convene a virtual meeting with the residents on Bedbrook, and the area adjacent to Hodgson Field to bring them up to date with the proposed work schedule. Thank you very much. Please continue to stay safe and stay vigilant and stay healthy. We're going to move now on to councillors' reports, starting with seat number 3 on matters pertaining to finance, recreation, and topics related to the status of an age-friendly municipality. Councillor Colleen Feeney.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, bonsoir tout le monde. I'll start off with the finance portfolio and start off by telling you that the dates for the 2023 water tax will be published in the next e-bulletin. However, we can expect the cards to go out to residents on September 1st, and they will have to be returned by September the 25th. The mailing of the bills will be October the 24th and the due date November 23rd. The readings can be submitted online, and you can attach a photo of your meter if that's easier for you. We really encourage you to use the online system when you're submitting your readings. We have also started the process for the sale for non-payment of taxes. The first two notices for unpaid 2021 taxes, property taxes, were sent out on August the 28th. The residents will have until September the 15th to contact us in order to avoid the public notice. And the Finance Department is working on the 2023 forecast and the 2024 budget. Le centre communautaire et l'hôtel de ville seront fermés le jour de la fête du travail, lundi le 4 septembre. Also in finance, you'll notice later in the meeting that we will be approving disbursements of $1,491,371. And these are the disbursements for the past 2 months for the town. And as always, I like to give residents an idea where your money has gone in the past 2 months. The largest single expenditure was for the CMM. That was $123,000. So that's not the AGLO, that's a step above it. It's a regional area that we pay for joint services with them. After that, there was about $58,000 spent still on the Fenwick project going back to 2021. That was the last holdback there, and that's almost to the end of that project. After that, of course, the main expenditures are usually, as we expect, in public works, and they amounted to $342,000. And the main ones there were garbage, which is also recycling and compost, $97,000. Contract work, outside contract work, $6,000. There was a large expenditure in vehicles this month. This for the past 2 months, let me say, which was over $63,000. That had to do, a lot of it had to do with the repairs for our street sweeper. And in recreation, of course, there were additional costs for the pool, about $20,000. Day camp and recreation programs, about $28,000, and special events, $20,000. And other things were in the town hall. There was a new electrical panel, $11,000, and betterments there for $18,000. And as usual, a very large part, which is about $700,000, goes to deductions at source, benefits, and utilities. So that brings it up to date on the $1.49 million. But if you have any questions about those, you can ask me. Recreation, I'll try to be fast, but really the summertime is their busiest time. So just going to give you a really quick précis of what they did do. Of course, we had Canada Day, which was postponed this year to July 9th because of the weather. We still went through with it, and even when the rain came, the musicians played on, and we were able to serve our cake to all. And we had music by the Fundamentals, pony rides, petting zoo, inflatables, etc., which was all actually free. So I want to thank our volunteers, some who I see in the audience, very much for supporting this very, very popular event in the town. Other things we had were a family duathlon on Tuesday, July 11th, also very well attended. We've done a few musical events, Best Beats in Town. We had 5 bands participating, and musicians playing in the park, and with meals by Burger de Ville. We had music in the park also, and a performance by Danielle Bellegarde, and a CTV movie in the park. So it was a very, very busy summer. Coming up, there will be Artist Showcase, and the submission for the Artist Showcase, they're due on September the 29th, and the theme will be Seascapes and Summer Memories. You can see the website for details. And we will also have the Montréal-Ouest Street Festival, which will be Saturday the 16th of September from 11 till 3. And this is really organized by the merchants with our support. So come on out, support them, see what they have to offer, and there will be music, and the street will be closed then as well. So it was a busy time for the community center. The Summer Kids program came to an end on August the 18th. There was many more children in both morning and afternoon programs than in previous years. The summer staff had a very successful summer, positive attitudes, and they worked very, very well together, so it was a great atmosphere. The camp. The camp also had a wonderful season, although they did have some rainy weather to contend with, but they continue to offer a caring and safe environment for our local kids. We want to thank our senior staff and the counselors for a successful summer, and the rec department is actively planning for the 2024 season already. Fall registration. The early bird registration was August the 21st. That was just for Montreal-West residents. On the 24th, we welcomed Hampstead and Côte St. Luc residents, and today, as of today, everyone can register for our programs. However, there are some programs which benefit from an early bird discount, and those programs have to be registered for by September 1st. Not all the programs, but you can look and see online which ones are eligible. And just incidentally, when you're registering for those, it includes the registration for all the three terms, the fall, winter, and spring. Les inscriptions aux activités d'automne, d'hiver et de printemps sont maintenant ouvertes. Les prix spéciaux de préinscription aux 3 sessions seront en vigueur jusqu'au 1er septembre. S'il vous plaît, consultez la brochure en ligne pour tous les détails. And on August the 15th, at the pool, there was a pool and camp show. There was a variety show and a very friendly swim meet. It was amazingly well attended by former staff, past and current swimmers, and it just showed a microcosm of just how many families get involved in the pool and involved in the town. It was wonderful. It was a lot of fun. And after a fun and competitive season, our swim team was demoted to C-section for the next season. A survey was sent out to residents and participants as we prepare options for programming for next season in conjunction with our partner pools. And as you probably are aware, the pool welcomed its last human swim people on August the 26th as we prepare for the demolition of the facility in early September. There was a closing party that evening, which was organized by volunteers and was very well attended. So once again, I want to thank the volunteers who worked so hard to bring that together. However, our pool then it finally went to the dogs, and the final event of the pool was on Sunday. That was yesterday, and we had a long asked for Dog Day. So residents and our canine citizens enjoyed the opportunity to take a dip in the facility. 50 dogs signed up, well, I guess 50 owners signed up their dogs for this swim. A good time was had by all, although I was there enjoying the fun, and I must say, most of the dogs preferred to just run around in circles around the pool rather than actually jump into it. And then later they had more fun in the baby wading pool as they sort of ran through back and forth and barked and ran around. But it was really a lot of fun to see them. And finally, the arena. The arena was emptied of all its contents and its memories as we prepare for the demolition. The CRA has planned for neighboring arenas to be used in the next season and so that we can continue operating our programming for our residents. Please see the CRA website to see the full offering of sports and activities in the neighborhood. Anyway, it will be, I'm sure, a very busy and exciting year for the Recreation Department, but great outcomes to come. And finally, with the seniors, the group had several activities in the summer, including a barbecue, a tea party, a theater trip. The tea party was intergenerational, with kids from 3 to 12 years old helping out, doing everything from setting tables to making scones, etc. There was also a guided tour of Ganawaki on August the 22nd, and they are going to play at Upper Canada Playhouse on the 31st. One thing I think I'd like to, was written up in the Informer, but on Saturday, October the 14th, there will be a seniors consultation here in the town hall. And the idea is we have received certification for being a senior-friendly town, and now we want to bring people up to date on where we are and get their input again as to our priorities in the coming years. So mark that date. There'll be more details to come. But the committee is very busy planning that. So, si vous avez des questions, vous pouvez m'envoyer un courriel ou poser-les plus tard au cours de la réunion. Merci beaucoup. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Councillor Feeney. And reporting from seat number 4 on matters pertaining to urban planning, Councillor Maria Torres.
Thank you. Good evening and welcome. Bonsoir à tous. During the past 2 months, the Urban Planning Department issued 81 permits. It's not a record number of permits issued during the summer, but it's very close. These were given for construction of new fences, decks, and porches, walkways, public intervention, renovation, and accessory buildings. 3 notices were sent, one for work not conforming with the permit, and the other 2 for work done without permits. During the above-mentioned period, the Planning Advisory Committee, PAC, met 3 times and reviewed a total of 25 files. The next PAC meeting will be held on September 6th and on the 20th. The deadline to submit completed files to PAC is 2 weeks prior to the meeting. La prochaine réunion du Comité consultatif d'urbanisme, CCU, aura lieu le 6 et le 20 septembre 2023. Les dates limites pour soumettre les dossiers complets au CCU sont 12 semaines avant les réunions. Please remember that if you're planning to carry out works, you should always verify with the Urban Planning Department whether the projected work requires a permit. All applications for permits and other authorizations must be done via the town's website. The procedure is well explained on the town's website under the Urban Planning Department. N'oubliez pas que si vous prévoyez d'effectuer des travaux, vous devez toujours vérifier après les services de l'urbanisme si les travaux projetés nécessitent ou non un permis et que toutes les demandes de permis et autres autorisations doivent se faire via le site web de la ville. Les procédures sont expliquées sur le site web de la ville sur les services d'urbanisme. C'est tout pour moi aujourd'hui. Si vous avez des questions ou des commentaires, n'hésitez pas de me contacter. If you have any questions or comments, please do not hesitate to contact me or the Urban Planning Department. Merci à tous et bonne soirée.
Merci la conseillère Torres. Reporting from seat number 1 on matters pertaining to public security, Councillor Lauren Small-Pennefather.
Bonjour tout le monde, bienvenue à tous. Good night, good evening everybody and welcome. The line painting was completed at the end of June with some corrections in July. Donc la peinture des lignes pour la sécurité était terminée au mois de juin et juillet avec des modifications au mois de juillet. The crosswalks will now be visible for the new school year. If anyone is wondering why the road markings don't seem to last as long as they used to, it's because we now have to abide by the federal standards on volatile organic compounds, so now everything is water-based paint. Donc, si vous avez noté que ça dure pas trop longtemps avec les peintures, avec les peintures sur la ligne, avec les lignes qui sont peinturées, c'est parce que maintenant c'est une base de peinture d'eau pour que ça soit en ligne avec les standards fédéraux pour les matériaux organiques. PSOs helped with the security detail for Canada Day. We were ready for July 1st, but of course we know that the weather didn't cooperate. We were happy that there was an event held on Sunday the 9th, but of course the fireworks had to be canceled again due to the weather. Donc on avait annulé les feux d'artifice à cause de la météo. PSOs were also busy with some vacation washes for citizens that asked to help us keep our eye out on their property. You may not be aware, but public security does offer a service. When people are away, they can check in on your residence. Donc, on a un service qui est offert par la sécurité. Quand c'est la période estivale ou dans les périodes d'hiver aussi, vous pouvez demander d'avoir quelqu'un pour passer pour regarder votre maison. We've had quite a few noise complaints as well this summer. Noise before 7 a.m. Others were barking dogs being left unattended either indoors or outdoors. So public security will go by and make sure owners are aware if there are noise issues. Donc on avait quelques plaintes de bruit aussi cet été. Donc les officiers de sécurité publique vont passer pour s'assurer que les propriétaires sont au courant de la situation. And of course, we are proudly serving 3 schools in our community, Edinburgh, Elizabeth Ballantyne, and Royal West. So please make sure to be prudent when you are in those areas and make sure as well if you're driving in those areas to respect the speed limits as well. Donc juste pour s'assurer, parce qu'on avait 3 écoles de notre secteur, juste pour s'assurer que vous êtes prudente dans la rue quand vous êtes conducteur aussi, juste assurer que vous suivez les règles. We also have some crime stats as well. We actually have an arsonist that was arrested. We were informed by the SPVM, the arrest of persons responsible for 3 small criminal fires that were set in our commercial area on Westminster. And I see acknowledge our SIM officials in the back, of course, that assist us with those situations as well. And as well may have also set a fire in one of the portable toilets as well that is located in the park. So we just have to be careful and vigilant that if you do see something that looks like criminal activity, that you continue to report this to the SPVM as well as public security. Donc avec quelqu'un qui est un provocateur d'incendie au début du mois de juillet, juste pour s'assurer, c'est quelqu'un qui avait 3 petits incendies dans le secteur commercial sur Westminster. Donc juste s'assurer d'être prudent. Si vous voyez quelque chose, appelez le 911 ou aussi appeler nos officiers de sécurité publique. Unfortunately, as you know, this was one of my articles as well this month in the Informer, is with regards to people who are targeting some of our most vulnerable citizens, and those are some of our seniors that were subjected to some criminal activity. There was actually a senior who was walking on in the sector, and they were stopped by somebody near Davies Park asking for directions, and when they asked for directions, the person then offered them a hug, and while they were giving them a hug, they stole a bracelet off of this individual. So these are very slick criminals that do terrible things to target seniors and other vulnerable people in our community, and just, you know, to make sure that you're a good neighbor and be vigilant of those kinds of incidents as well. Donc il y a des arnaques aussi dans notre communauté, juste pour s'assurer, des fois ils sont ciblés, les aînés de notre communauté, juste pour s'assurer qu'on est encore vigilante pour ce type d'activité. And just sorry, I just want to find in my... We also had, of course, as you know, on July 23rd, we also had a collision with our light post that was on the corner of Avon and Westminster. Everybody's seen the flashing light as well that's been repaired today, so we're very pleased that we were able to get that repaired today. We know it was a significant security issue in the sector, but there were several interventions that were required to repair the post, which was a large truck had collided with the post. And of course, we acknowledge the water main break that took place as well, and PSO and Public Works established the perimeter around that area as well during that time period. And again, just to be vigilant as we go back to school this week in our community, and just look out for each other. So I wish you a good evening, and if you have any other questions, you can email me directly at my Montreal-West address. Thank you. Merci.
Thank you very much, Councillor Small-Pennefather. Next one comes from seat number 2, reporting on matters pertaining to public works, communications, and the environment. Councillor Elizabeth Yolin.
Thank you very much. Bonsoir à tous. So in July and August, the public trees around town were trimmed, and some dangerous trees, unfortunately, had to be removed. The grass was cut on a 2-week rotation. This is a shift from our weekly cutting with an eye on sustainability. We had 2 water breaks this summer, one on Northview and the other at the intersection of Brock South and Broughton, which the mayor described in more detail in his report. And as many of you will be aware, we had multiple collapses of the sewer on Sherbrooke between Westminster and Brock that were repaired by an external contractor with expertise in the field. They inserted PVC pipes into the old brick sewer chambers, which were crumbling. As always, asphalt repairs were made to the roads and sidewalks, and our street sweeper, which had been broken for much of the early summer, was repaired and has now been out every day since. In September, in addition to the normal public works activities, the focus will be on work related to the demolition of the arena and pool for the new recreation center. In the environmental portfolio, our waste education partner, Enough, hosted waste sorting and reduction workshops for the day camp staff, and day camp staff, and organized a workshop focused on waste sorting for our campers. Enough was also present at some of our outdoor activity events, helping residents sort their garbage into the right bins. As a result of this program, they had a chance to speak to hundreds of residents at Community Night, Canada Day, and the Corn Roast and Camp Talent Show to help residents navigate what waste goes in which bin. And I think that's what we all need help with that. Et finalement, dans le domaine de la communication, je souhaite la bienvenue à Sandra Shangula, merci, qui remplace Elisabeth Roy pendant son congé maternité. Cet été, le service de communication a préparé les différentes communications relatives au nouveau centre sportif et récréatif et collaboré avec les autres services sur la préparation des brochures, d'avis et d'événements. So that's it for me, and I'll be happy to answer your questions during question period. Merci. Thank you.
Merci, la conseillère Yulin. Thank you, Councillor Yulin. We're now going to move on to the first question period. First question period, we will answer questions from the floor for a maximum of 25 minutes. We limit it to 2 questions per person, a short preamble, your first question, and a follow-up question if you want. I'll remind you it's a question period and not a debate period. After questions from the floor, we'll answer questions from residents that have been submitted until 2 p.m. online today on any topic. Same rule applies, 25 minutes total, 2 questions per person maximum. In the second question period, we will take questions pertaining to the agenda submitted via our website during the meeting. We will limit it to 10 minutes from the floor and 10 minutes online. And I see there's some people in the room that may want to ask a question that have submitted a question online, so it's one or the other. Lors de notre première période de questions, nous répondrons aux questions de la salle pendant un maximum de 25 minutes. Nous le limiterons à 2 questions par personne. Une courte préambule, votre première question, et une question de suivi si vous le souhaitez. Et je vous rappelle que c'est une période de questions et non une période de débat. Après les questions de la salle, nous reprendrons les questions des résidents qui avaient été soumises en ligne jusqu'à 14 heures aujourd'hui sur n'importe quel sujet. Les mêmes règles s'appliquent. 25 minutes au total, 2 questions par personne maximum. Lors de la deuxième période de questions, nous reprendrons aux questions relatives à l'ordre du jour soumis via notre site web lors de cette réunion. Nous le limiterons à 10 minutes depuis la salle et 10 minutes pour la online. Et comme j'ai dit, je vois si vous avez soumis des questions online et si vous préférez de le demander en salle, c'est soit une ou soit l'autre. Okay, so I'm going to ask you if you want to just step up to the this microphone over here, Sandra. This microphone over here. State your name and your address for the file, and go ahead and ask your question.
Works. Hi, Harold Knowles, 256 Percival. I submitted my questions online, so you can skip them when you get to them. First question is the field behind Elizabeth Ballantyne. They're digging it up. I asked the public works guy there. He says, okay, they're building a parking lot. I presume it's temporary. And can you give me some details on it? Like, how are the...
Sure.
They're not going to go down the pathway?
No problem, Mr. No. Okay. So what it's going to be is because the Public Works is losing all the parking spaces for their employees, what we're going to do is we're going to set up some parking spots right against the Public Works fence.
Right.
And they'll access it through the yard. So they're not going to come down Percival to get onto that field. They're going to cut through the yard, through the Public Works yard, and be able to park their cars along the fence. So again, it's just
pathway
temporary.
Will still be open. The pathway beside the tennis
The pathway
court.
should still be open. We're going to limit how far you can go with the pathway.
No, I understand.
Yeah, because we don't want you too close to the construction site. But the pathway will still be there until a certain point. My guess is somewhere around the tennis courts to be able to get into the tennis courts. But after that, it's going to be like closed because it'll be a construction area.
And it is temporary. It's not going to be.
It is a
forever.
temporary thing,
I
absolutely.
just want to make sure of that. Okay, my second question, and you used to mention this during coffee with the mayor, is so the sinkholes, not just the sinkhole at Westminster and Sherbrooke, but there's others, like there's one near Minicoo. There seem to be, at some point Westminster has to be redone completely, right? Do you have any details on that, when it would happen and how it would be done?
Sure.
And a main artery like that, it's going to be quite catastrophic.
Councillor Eland, do you want to take the call?
Well, you're absolutely right. So at some point, Westminster is going to have to be redone. We don't have a timeline for that, but as anybody knows who's driven along it, it's going to need work. It's going to be a very big job. We almost certainly wouldn't do it all at once.
Right.
But it's in the pipeline, so to speak.
But there's
for
no
sure.
time schedule.
There's no timeline
prediction.
right now. No.
Okay.
Thank you for asking.
And if I could just add something,
Yeah.
When it comes to doing a main street like that, as Councillor Yulin said, it's not like we can close down the whole street like when we did Percival, when we did your street. We can close it down and go from there. So that's probably going to be done half and half. And there's extra levels of funding that are available sometime when we're doing a main street like that. So hopefully we'll be able to take advantage of those
What's
too.
actually happening to the street? Is there?
It's the foundation
is it-
underneath. It's the foundation underneath that's getting iffy. Yeah.
Okay.
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 Thank you.
Thank you.
Danielle Lemieux, 22 Brock South. Oh. I'll just shout. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, it's good there.
22 Brock South, Danielle Lemieux. You'll have to forgive me. I'm not a public speaker, so I'm going to read my question, which, frankly, the mayor's opening statements were quite informative. I wish that the residents of Brock South had that information prior to tonight's meeting. It would have helped us along the way. Regardless, I'm going to read my question. Once it was evident that the City of Montreal was not going to turn off the pipe causing the massive flood, why did the town of Montreal-West wait until 6 a.m. before, and I quote, going against protocol to shut off their pipe? Is it not the responsibility of the town to protect its citizens and their property?
I don't believe that the pipe was shut down at 6 o'clock. I think I actually have a time frame. The plumber got in at 4:30. Our plumber got in at 4:30, and they started shutting down the valves, and they noticed at 6 a.m. that the water had dissipated in the area already. So it was before 6 o'clock.
Okay, so it was before, say it was 5 o'clock, regardless.
Yeah.
Why did it take so long?
Because
before
as
you
I
decided?
mentioned in my report, it's and as I mentioned to in my communications, you can't just close a pipe like that. We tried as much as possible to follow protocol, because having a break somewhere else may not seem so significant, and it can be because it'd be a major break. But more importantly, we can affect the quality of the drinking water when you start to shake up the contents, as it were. So those were two considerations, and that's why there are very strict protocols in when you have to shut a pipe of that size. The City of Montreal doesn't even do it themselves. They farm it out to somebody else
But
because they don't want
it was done at 5 o'clock.
It was
Could
done
not-
at 5 o'clock.
Could it not have been done at 1 o'clock?
No, at 1 o'clock, we tried to wait as much as possible to try and follow the protocol. At one point, we had to say, listen, I'm sorry, let's pull the trigger, and we did what we had to do.
Will there be a meeting with the residents of Brock South to go into this subject further?
If you guys want a meeting, and you mentioned in your email to me today
Yes.
that you had asked for a meeting. I checked back on the emails that I received from the group, and I didn't see a request for a meeting. I saw requests for information. All the information was provided. I didn't see a request for a meeting. But if you want to have a meeting, we can actually have a meeting. It's my pleasure. I'm very clear on the information. So we can set up a meeting at your leisure.
Oh, all right.
Thank you.
Hi, Jim Mullally, 112 Broughton. As a result of the flood on July 13th, our basement was flooded also, and considerable damage, but we had a plumbing inspection and they recommended that we replace our main drain in the basement. So this was done last week, Tuesday, Wednesday, but they determined after putting the backwater valve in, there was a negative slope to the main outside. So I have submitted 2 work permits for tree removal because we have a birch tree that's in the way of the main outside, and to have the excavation done. And that was last week. How long does it take a work permit? Because now for 2 months, since July 13th, almost 2 months, we have an uninhabitable basement. 2 bedrooms down there, one that's my stepson's bedroom and office.
So can I ask you, Mr. Mullally, when did you submit the permits for the tree and for the...
Last week.
Last week? So do you have an idea how long it'll take to get that done? Yeah. Okay, normally we'll have it treated as an urgent matter. So it shouldn't take that long because it's not something that has to go to the planning advisory committee or something. It's more an administrative thing.
Right.
So if you want to check with administration tomorrow, they could probably give you an idea what day it'll be delivered.
I called this morning and left a message with Mr. Floria, I believe it was, never got called back.
And did he answer? Did he get back to you?
No, he didn't. No.
Okay, so
And I
we'll follow
explained
up.
the urgency of
Yeah,
it.
we'll follow up with him, and we'll make sure that he gets back to you, Mr. Mullally.
Okay.
Thank you.
Second question just came up with the discussion about Westminster repaving. Does that not follow the same protocol that when the underground infrastructure and the drainage and that is going and waste that you have to replace it, that you repave it?
I'm sorry.
Well, you've often said that you only repave streets once the underground structure drains and stuff like that.
Once the
past
pipes start to
point
go.
of- Is the pipes on Westminster
It's
past?
not the pipes that went, it's the foundation that's going.
But, I mean, I'm talking Broughton. Broughton is probably one of the worst streets. Maybe Ainsley is just as bad.
And
that needs paving.
In this particular case, what happened on Brock wasn't even our piping, it wasn't
No, not there.
our sewers or anything, it was a City of Montreal
I'm
pipe
not
that
talking
went.
that. I'm talking go down Broughton, go west on Broughton. It's one of the worst streets in Montreal-West, as Ainsley is. And as I say, they need repaving. But it seems like Westminster, I know it's a main street, but it has to, and I think maybe you do require an inspection of the mains there because there's a problem with the drainage on Broughton.
Okay, well, like I said, they're in the midst now of putting up to date the order of priorities. That's something we have to do for the City of Montreal, for the agglomeration. It's called the Plan d'Intervention, where they put in place the streets. They have to be reevaluated, and they put in priority what's there. That's what we can use to apply for granting.
Okay.
Okay?
So as part of the requirement for underground drainage, if it's insufficient to take care of these types of weather conditions, is that considered a reason to put it on a priority list?
I'm not sure about that, Mr. Mullally.
Okay.
I don't know that answer.
I mean, this is, you determine, the city determines the priorities.
I don't know if that's the answer, because if you had to try and plan for these kind of weather events, nobody, and these are across the island, it's actually across the country, nobody would be able to afford to have sewer systems that can handle the capacity of these events. Now, they're coming more and more often, and there will be a question later about retention basins, other things that we can look at. But in terms of increasing the capacity of the sewers, that's not so, it's not a one-to-one thing that you can increase it so quickly to take care of these things.
But there is a question about the maintenance of these
Yes.
drainage.
Yes.
Were they maintained properly?
We haven't had any issues with maintenance in the past. They get blown out, they get cleaned.
When?
Okay, Mr. Mullally, you've asked like 5 questions
Okay.
already. Thank you.
Next up.
Thank you.
Good evening, Valérie Favre, 27 Brock Sud, the flooded street. I have about 100 questions to ask tonight, and I realize I have two.
Allez-y,
We were-
choisissez les deux.
We were promised a meeting by 2 councillors who visited us 3 days after the event, and we were promised that verbally. I think we're gonna have a meeting where we can ask our 100 questions.
So no problem. As I said to
Okay.
Madame Lemieux,
That was not
we
a
can-
question, that was just a statement. I just want to say that we were up all night that night, walking by, talking to the police at the end of the street, talking to the firemen who showed up, talking to public security at the end, and everybody was looking for the plumber who was sleeping. That's what we were told. Because the plumber had worked a long, long, long shift down on Courtney, I think, or down on Ronald Drive or somewhere. He had worked all day and he was tired. How come the city of Montreal-West has only one person to call during the night or at any time for emergencies like the one we had to go through? On the 14th, only one plumber. We were told that he didn't have the right key to turn off the valve for the city of Montreal. We were told that City of Montreal and City of Montreal-West were playing games on who was gonna turn off the valve.
I don't.
Then I was up at the end of the street at 5:06. I have pictures. There was nobody there turning off valves. The plumber showed up at 5:30 ahead of his regular schedule, which starts at around 6 or 7, because that's the way it was. I was there standing taking pictures with, I have the times.
The plumber came in. Let me answer this first question for you.
But there was no question. There was no question yet. This is a statement.
You first said to me, how come the Montreal-West has one plumber only?
Oh, yeah, but that
Okay,
was.
that was a question, or do you want me to ignore that one so you can ask 2 other questions?
I'd like everybody to stay calm, and I want to talk. Excuse me?
Let her ask.
Yeah, because, you know, I had no holiday this year because my holiday was canceled, and I was back at work yesterday teaching 24 first graders. Tired because I had to destroy my basement, my house is molded, and everything. I'm going to pass on that because a lot of people here had to go through that all summer. Because the valve was not closed on time, it was closable because it was closed at 5:30. It could have been closed at 12 when the event happened. The police woke us up at 1:15 because our cars were going to float away. We moved our cars and we waited with dry basements. And then it got flooded because Brock South never gets flooded during floods. We're lucky we have dry basements all the time. July 14th, 36 years ago or something, when we had the major flood on the Carry, Brock South didn't get flooded. Brock South didn't get flooded during the storm. I want to know if you thought about having a backup plumber for emergencies like this. That's my first question. And my second question is, when the water was oozing and pouring out of this 14-inch pipe, which is very small for City of Montreal because their biggest pipes are 108 inches. And when the crew showed up from Montreal, they laughed at us. When we said, oh my God, that big pipe, they said, oh, it's such a small pipe. We were all there around the hole, looking at the big, small pipe. It was a small pipe for City of Montreal. Their big pipes take 800 turns with hydraulic machines to turn off. This one was turned off with 30 turns by hand. So it was doable at 12 when it happened. My question is regarding the street. The water was going under the street at full force, up in the middle of the street, then down again. When Public Work came to re-asphalt sort of our street, which is already crumbling big time, because Brock South is one of the worst streets in West, I told the guys, I said, guys, the water went under, the street is fragile. They patched up a little area a week ago, when? 4 days ago, 5 days ago, big sinkhole. Are we gonna lose our cars after losing our basements? And this is serious because the street was badly damaged by the water that went down all night. I have a third thing that really I'm concerned with, and I have to talk about it now, and these gentlemen are here. I called 911 when my basement started getting flooded because I was not gonna go down because the water was going up past my boots. So I had to call 911 to turn off my electricity because I had kids, my grandkids, my dog, my husband. We were sleeping, we were in the house. I couldn't go down and turn off the breaker because it went up very fast. And when the firemen came, they were very nice, but they told me, this is not our jurisdiction. I'm not supposed to turn off the water. I'm not supposed to turn off the electricity. I said, please guys. They said, okay, we'll go down. And they did it. They were nice. They were not obnoxious. They were nice. And they showed up within, I don't know, Gord, 5 minutes, 4 minutes. They showed up. But then I was worried because if I have a fire in my house on Brock South and I call and it's not the right fire truck that shows up, am I going to be told that it's not the right jurisdiction? So what's going on with the firemen, with the fire department for our city? That's my other question.
Okay.
I'm a worried citizen, Mr.
Okay,
Mayor.
so I'll start to answer the questions. We have one plumber who was in that night until midnight. He was called at 4. He came in at 4:30. At 4:30 he came. Please let me finish, ma'am. At 4:30 he came in, and it's not that he came right to there to try and turn off the valves. They had to try and find the maps, Montreal's maps, to see where the valves were to turn off. So that's what they were doing all that time from 4:30 to when you saw them on the street. It happened that night that the computers were down because of all the power failures, and they lost the server. They couldn't reach the plans. They had to actually go and get paper plans. We have one plumber. We've always had one plumber. We have other people that can do some work, but in terms of this specialized work, even this was past what our plumber could do. And like I said, they took a very big chance when they even tried to tackle it. Your second question, just remind me your second question? The street. The street now, I don't know if they finished their investigation. They wanted to patch a certain hole, but they will be doing an investigation to see what the subsurface of that street looks like, what the foundation, whether it was damaged, and whether there needs to be a more extensive repair. The third question with the SIM, I'm going to leave it to the SIM gentleman to answer. They asked a question about, they were told about responsibilities and everything like that. As far as I know, and that's the reality, there is one SIM on the whole island, one fire department on the whole island, so that somebody mistakenly told you that it's not their responsibility to take care of Montreal-Ouest. They told you incorrectly. It's the same thing that other people may have told you on the street. They were incorrect in telling you those things. But if there's something that they want to add, Monsieur Dion, Monsieur Limoges, s'il y a quelque chose que vous voulez ajouter pour la madame concernant les responsabilités de l'SIM et en disant qu'il n'y a pas une limite parce que ici c'est Montréal-Ouest, c'est pas Montréal, que ce n'est pas l'SIM qui s'en occupe de tout ça. C'est un département de Sylvestre Cindy. Oui, allez-y.
I'll answer in French if you
Oui,
don't
oui,
mind.
allez-y, allez-y.
Effectivement, le service d'incendie, c'est seulement un pour toute l'agglomération. Il y a 66 casernes réparties sur tout le territoire. Et même si la caserne 77 de Montréal-Ouest est occupée sur un appel, et il y a un deuxième appel, on a la Salle, la Chine, on a le Sud-Ouest sur la rue Manque, on a Côte-Saint-Luc, une caserne de NDG. Donc, il y a toujours des casernes disponibles qui répondent. Les casernes sont réparties vraiment pour répondre en deçà de 5 minutes. Donc, il n'y a pas vraiment de problème de couverture. S'il y a un feu majeur ici avec plusieurs casernes, on déploie des véhicules de Pointe-aux-Trembles, de Pointe-Claire qui viennent recouvrir le territoire s'il y avait d'autres interventions ici dans le coin. Donc, c'est vraiment pas un problème de couverture de territoire. Pour ce qui est de la responsabilité, nous, le service d'incendie, dès que quelqu'un fait le 911, on répond. C'est sûr, certaines choses, des chats dans les arbres, c'était dans le passé, il y a certaines choses qu'on ne fait pas. Mais pour l'électricité, de l'eau dans un sol, s'il y a un risque électrique, c'est notre responsabilité d'éliminer ce risque-là. Les inondations, on en répond à chaque jour, pratiquement, pas nécessairement par la pluie, mais des dégâts d'eau intérieurs. Et l'électricité, c'est un risque. L'eau et l'électricité, on sait que c'est pas compatible. Et on répond. Et quand on répond sur toutes les inondations, le premier geste qu'on fait, qu'on veut éliminer, c'est l'électricité. Fait que c'est un geste, une tâche qu'on fait. C'est la première, c'est de vraiment couper l'électricité s'il y a un risque avec l'eau.
Okay.
Donc, c'est la tâche des pompiers, quand ils sont appelés sur une inondation, d'éliminer le risque d'électricité.
Merci pour votre réponse. Thank you. Thank you very much, ma'am. Mr. Marcusi?
Hi, Daniel Marcus, 446 Mosley North. I have a whole list, but I'll ask only 2 questions. Particularly about Westminster. The questions were asked, but there's a cone, a big orange cone in the middle of Westminster. There's a big orange cone in the middle of Northview, and there's some other places with cones. When are you going to fix that area? That's not enough to say that we are going to look into it and check and see if we can get funding. Obviously, all the funding is going to the arena, but...
No, Mr. Marcusi, that's not the case, and you know that. You know that, Mr. Marcusi,
I
too.
don't know that.
Yes, you do. Go finish your question, Mr. Marcusi.
If you're arguing this project, $14 million project, is like a $16 billion in the city of Montreal.
Finish
Just for
asking your question. Go ahead, Mr.
But
Marcusi.
anyway, I was asking about Westminster and the cones on Westminster, on Northview, and some other streets.
I honestly don't have an answer for the specific cones that are around the
You know
town.
where there's a cone in the middle of Westminster? I don't remember the corner of the...
Well, yeah, I need to have more information
it's probably
than
around
that.
Carrots. There's in front of the Mini Coos, just around there. There's a big cone in the middle of Westminster. Anybody can see it. If you want, you can go and see it. It's a big cone in the middle of Westminster.
So I will inquire with the department as to what's going to happen with that cone and how soon it will be there.
That cone has been there for over 2 months. It's
I don't
been
have
here
the
since
I don't have the information at my fingertips.
I cannot understand how you can say that you don't know where the cone is when there's a big orange cone.
There's
in
a
the
lot of
middle.
orange
It wasn't
cones.
a cone like this. It's a big cone like that.
Okay, Mr. Marcusi.
Okay.
And that's number one. Number two, who approved the stairs in front of Budning? I tripped over that stairs because it sticks out way too much on the sidewalk.
Okay, I'll have to hand that over to my colleague.
Yeah, Counselor, go ahead.
Yeah. The stairs in front of Budning went to the PAC when I was on the PAC a few years ago. And quite honestly, it's a pharmacy, so it services a lot of seniors, a lot of people with handicaps. So
I'm
the
a
fact that they
senior
were
myself.
putting in a ramp was welcome, and the PAC thought that the design was very suitable and fit the decor, etc. They're going to be actually adding some bicycle racks too. That's why it moves out a bit, but it had to be a certain width to be able to have the wheelchair go up and be able to turn around. Now, having said that, so they did build it according to what they had approved, what had been approved by the PAC. But there have been a couple of people who have mentioned that even though it's a different material, it is grayish and it blends. So they have been asked if they can paint or put a strip of colors on the bottom stairs,
What
and
are
they're
you
going to do that.
What's going to happen in the winter when it's covered in snow? I tripped on this myself. I am a senior myself.
Mr. Marcuzzi, can I ask you, when you tripped, were they put railings there now? I don't know if, was this before or after that?
The railing
Just curious.
The railing is off the wall. If they should have put the ramp, say, parallel to the wall, not parallel, but on the side of the wall, rather than move it about a meter or so to the into the street, and that it sticks way too far.
That's a fair comment, Mr. Marcuzzi, but you should also know that that's actually private property over there. They own that part of the sidewalk. All the businesses do there.
Yeah, but if it goes for approval, it should not have been approved the way it is, and something has to be done to fix it.
They have been asked, and they said that they definitely will comply.
Thanks, Mr. Marcuzzi.
Hi, my name is Pascal Blais. I'm at 132 Brock Avenue. I agree with the fact that, by the way, I'm not here for that, but that stair is dangerous. We almost tripped on it, and it was in the summer, so I'm thinking in the winter is going to be a problem. But that's not why I'm here. I'd like to know what, when I bought a house here in Montreal-West, I bought it almost on top of a hill because my father-in-law was a plumber, and he told me water doesn't go up the hills, so he always better to buy a house up a hill. We had a flood on the 13th of July, big flood. My basement is wasted, and all my neighbors, many of my neighbors on Brock Street, basement are wasted. I mean, I don't know how many, but it was like more than 6. And when I bought the house, like in 2017, I was told that the street was going to be redone. And my question is, because, the street is over 100 years old, probably between 100 and 120. And the lifespan of a street infrastructure lasts an average of 75 years. We're way over past due the remaking of Brock Street. And so I was told it was going to be done. I was even worried that it would be done while I would be moving into the house because, the access would have been difficult. But it's like 5 years later, 6 years later, I want to know what's the plan to change that street because it's like Beirut after the war. There's holes. There was a hole in the street. We could go deep, waist deep, in front of one of my neighbors last summer. So, what is the plan for the city to redo that street and when?
Councilor Yulin?
Thanks very much for your question. I don't know who would have told you the street was going to be redone. I don't know who you were speaking to then, because we don't have that information very much in advance. So
I spoke to Benny Masella, actually.
You can be sure I didn't tell you Brock was going to be redone soon. I remember having the conversation with you. I remember who introduced us, and you can be sure I didn't tell you that she was going to be redone
No,
soon.
you said it wasn't going to be happening in the next 2 months. That's true.
There you go.
But you didn't say it was going to be taking forever.
Okay, well, let me just tell you then, the way we redo the streets in the town, the process we have is that we have this plan d'intervention that we get from the City of Montreal. We basically have a look at the infrastructure underneath all the streets for sewers and water infrastructure, because that's the way we get grants. We don't get grants for repaving. We get grants for doing the underground water infrastructure. And based on that, we apply for grants to have various streets redone. So the street that has the worst infrastructure underneath for water and sewer infrastructure is the one that gets the grant, and that's the way we proceed. So even though I can't deny that there are many streets in town, like Brock South, that look like Beirut on the top, their water infrastructure may be just fine underneath, or good enough underneath, so that they don't come to the top of the list, at least for now. They will eventually, but for now, they're not in first place in that regard. So we will only do Brock South when we get a grant for Brock South, when Brock South gets to the top of the list.
So
I
you're
know
saying it's not on
frustrating to
top of the
hear.
list, even though if like all my neighbors were flooded, it's not on top of the list.
The flood that you had on that date wasn't necessarily due to your water and sewer infrastructure underneath your street, right? This was a catastrophic break of a pipe in Montreal that essentially burst and was, water was rushing down the street and into your basements. It was horrendous.
No, that's he's on Brock North, Elizabeth.
Oh, excuse me, Brock North.
Brock
Pardon
North.
me. Well, everything I said up to the last part is correct with respect to whether or not you're on the list.
Well, my neighbor's tooth house down, when she bought the house, she just bought a house, and she had some plumber look into her plumbing. Everything was perfect on her side. And when the camera went into the street, the level of the water, that was 2 weeks before the flood, was way too high. That's what the plumber told them. It's like abnormally high. And they said just one little rain, it could flood. And 2 weeks later, we had a flood. And you're saying you have no plan to change anything here?
As I said before, Mr. Blais, we're redoing the plan d'intervention that's going to define which streets have the highest priority, and those are the streets that we have to tackle.
So how many streets had more floods than Brock North?
Our street, I'm over on Wolseley. We had more than Brock North. There was Brock North in the north side, over on the other side of the hump. They had more.
But your street is not as old.
Yes, it is. Our street is the same age as yours.
Over 100 years old.
Yeah.
It's also worth saying that the streets in the north of town, above the hump, even though they were done, they were redone, in the 1950s or so? So
That's when they were created, yeah.
Younger streets, they were the ones that were in the worst shape underneath. So some of these older streets, even though they look terrible on top, are not as bad underneath for water infrastructure.
Well, I think this is unacceptable. This is for me, this is negligence. There's going to be an accident. The infrastructures are in really bad shape, and we are putting our attention on other stuff. I think it's trivial in comparison to the infrastructure of the streets of the city. I don't want to talk about the arena, but if you want, But the thing is, we're spending a lot of money on the arena. Meanwhile, our houses are flooded. I was going to put the house on sale. I can't put it on sale because now the whole basement is ruined, and because of what I consider as negligence. It's not the first year I had a flood. I had one last year, and there was not this historical flood.
Yeah, I understand. Well, with respect to the rec center, the money we got from the rec center is from a totally different
I know that. I've been explained
funding
that.
source.
But what are we waiting for to ask for a grant for redoing the street?
We're waiting for
A disaster?
not a disaster. We're waiting for it to get
Thank you.
higher up on the priority
Thank you, Mr.
list.
Blais. Thank you, Mr. Blais.
Yeah. Wow.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Guillaume Chiavassa. I live on 16 Brock South. So I had a lot of questions at first, but a lot of residents already answered those. So those are probably going to be really simple questions. It's in regard of, again, the sinkholes and the state of the streets in Montreal, either in Brock North or Brock South. I would like to know when is going to be the urban planning to figure out which street needs to be done, like what is going to be the date?
So they're doing the evaluations now. Can I just get your name again, please?
Guillaume Chiavassa.
Okay, we're just redoing the plan d'intervention now. When the studies for the plan d'intervention is completed, at that point we have to send it into the agglomeration, has to get approved, and that's what we can use to then start applying for the grants. So they're in the middle of doing the update on the plan d'intervention. It's got to be redone how often? Every 2-3 years?
Every 3 years.
Every 3 years? Has to be redone every 3 years. We're in the process of doing it now.
Okay, so I guess my follow-up question is, but I think you more or less replied to it. I was wondering, in an event such as the water pipe that broke on Brock South, that was unplanned, and then the state of the street that was deteriorated with the flood coming down, and new sinkhole appearing every day now. Like there's one that just appeared in front of my house 2 days ago. Yes, there is an orange cone. We're safe on that regard. But is there some way of going up the prior list?
I think that's a fair question, and I think probably yes, because it's foundation. It's pipes and it's foundation when we do these streets. It's pipes and foundations. So if the foundation has been washed out because of this flood, if that's the case, like I said, they're doing the evaluation, then that can move things up in priority. Yes.
Okay. And I know I have only two questions, but is there a way to have like the information for the urban planning and when it's gonna happen, the results?
Soon as we have some information, we should be able to share some large, big lines of what's coming and which are higher priority, which are lower priority. We'll be able to answer questions afterwards.
On the website?
Yeah. Can I just add something?
Yeah.
It's not the urban planning, it's the Public Works Department.
Okay.
So if you call us, we're not going to have that information. Really would be at the administration of the Public Works. They do the study of the town, and then they submit it to the government, but not at the urban planning.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
My name's James Broden. I live at 38 Brock South. I think I speak, this is part of my preamble now, I speak for the people that were affected on our street. It comes down to it being preventable or not preventable. Now, we all sympathize and are upset by people who are flooded, yourself, Mr. Mayor, my parents, everyone that was flooded. It's annoying, but I'm not angry about it. I'm angry about this because we think it was preventable. Now, the situation between 12 and 4:45 or 4:30 when the plumber arrived, it's been finished since we were talking about it with Val at the corner of the street until today. It has changed. It is not the same story since the beginning. My first question, is if the plumber was home at 12 o'clock and we had police, fire department, public works, public security, Val, and the rest of our street at the corner, why did it take until 4:30 to start looking for plans? If we're underwater, and you're saying that there was a power failure, well, let's get on it and look for the plans, the physical plans. What was the delay between when it happened? Because we were like 8 hours late to the party. The city had all made their claims. We have what was, I think, a preventable accident, and I'm not blaming anyone for it breaking, but now we all have to fight with our insurance companies after the rest of the city has already like jumped in line. It's been a month from hell, and I swear to God, for that 4.5 hours, what was going on? You said that we were doing other things because it's dangerous to turn it off.
No, what I said, Mr. Broden? Broden, sorry, Mr. Broden. What I was saying is that the first couple of hours was trying to get Montreal to have somebody come in competent to shut the valves.
But there was someone there that left.
There was somebody there that left.
And he didn't tell anyone. He just said that there's water coming down a Montreal-West street and left it alone.
He said that it was he was only authorized to work up to a 10-inch pipe. I'm just telling you.
I understand that. But what's the next step then? Like for 4.5 hours, that's not acceptable that he doesn't work on 12-inch pipes. Get the guy who works on 12-inch pipes. If we don't have a guy that works on 12-inch pipes, call someone. Get some plans. Like you're saying that the guy, well, we didn't get to start turning the knob until 6 because we were trying to find the plans.
No, that's not what I said.
You said he came back at, what time did he come in?
He came back at 4:30.
4:30.
And they were they went to get the plans, and they had to figure out. Mr. Broden, please. They went to look for the plans to start turning off the valves. When the plumber from Montreal was ready to leave, we said to him, call your supervisor and have somebody come here who knows what they have to do. And when nobody showed up, that's when we started doing the work that we had to do.
And how long was that?
I don't know what the time frame. So what time did he leave? I can hang on a minute.
Everyone saw the water coming down the street, and no one was making phone calls. You should be phoning everyone, like every 10 minutes someone should get a call. Are you kidding? This was
Okay, so
preventable,
the-
Mr. Mayor.
this-
Like it was 5.5 hours
plumber-
of water pouring down the street and no one did anything.
Mr. Broden, the plumber.
The people who couldn't, the fire department said their hands were tied, the police said their hands were tied. Our guys are saying the hands are tied, and the guy that said, I only work on 10-inch pipes. We're supposed to accept that? I'm serious. I'm trying to be calm, sir. I respect that you've taken the time. I appreciate it. But come on, we have been through a lot, and we've been getting, like Danielle was saying before, your story, which is fine, you're allowed to have your story, but that's not the story we had up until like tonight about, oh, this is dangerous to turn it off before then. We could actually be endangering other people's drinking water.
I
hadn't heard that for a month.
I actually have the emails where I sent that out to people. I actually do. I have that group email that was in there.
What about the plans then? Like what were the stages
The-
that were
the-
being done
the
for
plumber-
4.5 hours
the Montreal-
while the plumber was at home?
The Montreal plumber was there between 2:30 and 3 o'clock. He left, I don't know how long he left after that.
There was someone, the 10-inch plumber or the 12-inch plumber, Mr. Mayor?
The
Like,
Montreal plumber,
I know
the city of Montreal plumber.
The city of
Okay,
Montreal was
Mr.
that-
Broden,
I'm-
Mr. Broden,
Sir, I'm
Mr.
trying
Broden.
to be calm,
You-
please.
If you want to ask me a question, ask me a question.
I
I'm
do.
trying to answer.
I would like to say,
Okay.
the Montreal plumber, when we were there.
Was there
at-
between 2:30 and 3 o'clock from what we had on the report. Okay, the
Is
Montreal.
that right, guys? Because that doesn't sound right.
We were up all night.
We were there.
There was no
You're talking to us like we weren't there.
We're not talking about Danny, we're talking about the city of Montreal plumber.
But-
At 12:30 saying
Yeah.
it's not our
No.
job, it's on Montreal-West territory.
We were there.
Listen,
This is what the
I have
city of
the.
Montreal said.
Okay.
And
I know, it's a
what
report.
we're hearing-
We-
I want to say, because I spoke to the guy, because I was on holiday. Unfortunately for the city of Montreal, I was on holiday on my street until yesterday. So I talked to all those people. Montreal said it is not our job to turn off a valve when it's on the Montreal-West territory. It is up to their plumber to do it. This is what Montreal said. This is protocol. This is their protocol. Now, in the informer, Mr. Mayor, you say that you're gonna have a meeting with the mayor of Montreal, I suppose, to talk about protocol. We're 6 weeks, 7 weeks after the event. If a pipe breaks tonight, who is going to shut the valve if it's a Montreal pipe? This is our concern. We're trying to sleep at night.
I'm going to read to you what I said in my reports.
I read this.
No, and did you hear what I said in my report?
You said that
Hang on a minute. I'm going to read it to you right again.
because there, I got this yesterday, and you say that you are going to have a meeting.
We have since been in contact with the City of Montreal's administrative team and on the political side to ensure that responses we receive and interventions that must be undertaken are enacted swiftly and securely. I met with them on the political
we write
side,
those articles. We write those articles weeks before it comes out.
but just so you know, I met with the I met with the mayor. I met with the mayor of Côte-Neige-NDG last week. I met with her last week, and our teams have been in contact with the administrative teams in Montreal, with the water department in Montreal, to be able to get the proper protocols in place.
But there was no proper protocol until
There was a protocol that said, "Don't touch the pipe; it's 14 inches." That's the protocol that we had before. I'm sorry? I didn't ask that question, Mr. Broden. I don't know if we knew that there was a 14-inch pipe there. I don't know that answer. Okay, thank you.
plans were nowhere to be found, and there was a power failure, and there was
No,
no
there-
paper, and it's a one disaster after
Okay.
the next. Are we
All
gonna
right.
learn from that?
Thank you. Yes, we have learned. We are learning from that. We are learning from that. Désolé que vous n'êtes pas convaincu. Et je suis sûr qu'il n'y a rien que je peux te dire ce soir qui va vous convaincre parce que vous êtes fâché. Je comprends que vous êtes fâché.
Je suis pas fâchée, monsieur le maire, je suis épuisée.
Épuisé, je comprends ça aussi.
Pareil, c'est pas pareil.
Je comprends ça complètement, madame.
On a parlé à 2 councillors 3 jours après qui ont vu dans quel état on était.
OK.
Qui ont vu dans quel état on était parce qu'on nous a laissé notre ville dans laquelle on vit depuis 25 ans, plus de 30 ans, 35 ans, nous a laissé tomber la nuit du 14 juillet. On nous a laissé tomber. On n'a pas eu le act of God de la tempête. On n'est pas inondé quand il pleut. On a eu ce bris avec zéro réponse de la part de notre ville. La valve était fermable. Elle a été fermée à 5h30 du matin. Pas à 5h09, ça coulait encore, j'ai des photos. pas mon téléphone, mais j'ai les photos à la maison, dans mon téléphone. On les a probablement sur notre site. Ça coulait à 5h09 et il n'y avait pas de plombier, il y avait juste la sécurité publique en regard.
Les plombiers, les vannes où ils doivent aller fermer les valves sont partagées partout. Ils ne sont pas seulement sur Brock Sud, il y en a sur Broughton, il y en a plus loin aussi, il y en a sur, je sais, I think I saw all the way over to Westminster, les valves qui doivent être touchées.
There was no activity, Mr. Mayor,
Okay.
at 5 o'clock.
Okay,
There was
thank
no
you.
truck, no activity. There was only la sécurité publique at the top of the
Okay.
street waiting for the plumber.
All right.
Waiting for the plumber.
I appreciate that. And we'll see if the story changes. This is the report that I've been giving from Public Works, very clearly. Okay, thank you. We'll go on to the next question, please. I understand. I want to get my last questions in. Thank you. Go ahead. ma'am.
Cynthia Nichols, 25 Westminster South. I'm going to put a punctuation mark on this. By the way, I noticed that you repaved the break here at the town hall, the initial break that flooded my land all those years ago and caused the multiple sinkholes. I noticed that it's just been repaved. I'm so sorry that you didn't listen to me, really. And here we are dealing with this. In the meantime, I was 2 days late to respond to the city. I sent in my demand on the 17th, 17 days later. Apparently it was only 14 or 15 days to file a claim. And to this day, you have, Maria came by the house once and told me the cache was empty. But that was months after the initial flood here at this pipe at the town hall. Since we've gone through all of this construction and everything, a year before COVID, I told the plumber, I called the town, I called multiple people to say something's wrong with my water. It smells bad, it has debris in it and everything. And then all of a sudden, we've got this major disaster. $47,000, the initial cost. And I believe, I was speaking with the man the other day, and I said, so what's this going to be, another $47,000? He says to me, no, much more. So I don't know how much this eventually is going to cost, but the plumber that you
Ms.
sent
Nichols, do
over,
you have a question,
but
please?
Yes, it's coming.
Thank
The
you.
plumber you sent over came, tapped on the pipe, on the main pipe, and said that everything was okay. No testing of the water. To this day, I go through liters upon liters of water. I go down. It's incredible the amount of money I have to spend on water for the past few years because my water is, whatever's happening with this leak, it's on that line. And the infrastructure underneath the land, and we know this, has been damaged. So I want to know, is the town going to do anything about this? The land at the back of the house is completely wet. The garden, everything. It's mud. And I have a cistern still in my basement.
Okay.
So is there going to be anything done? I mean, I understand that they're dealing with some major issues, but the entire land right here in Westminster is in problems.
I can't make any comments about the
Well,
quality of
perhaps
the water.
You can send someone, because we've had days now of sun,
Okay,
and it should be dry.
thank you.
I've lived here for close to 30 years.
All right.
And I've
So-
never dealt with this before.
We're going to move on now, and actually we're past our 25 minutes, so we're going to move on to question period that were questions that were sent online.
That was only one question.
Oh.
Oh, by the way, you moved again to Wolseley now?
I've been on Wolseley for many
I thought
years.
it was Percival.
No. First question comes from, we're past our period, Mr. Blake.
Very quickly, I just want to know the list. You said there's a list of priority. I'd like to see that list.
When it's finished by the city of Montreal, who has to finalize it, we'll see about making it more, or getting some more information out about it.
When is that?
Soon as the city of Montreal finishes working on it. We have to do all the studies, and they end up finalizing it. First question comes from Julian Mazzoni, 49 Parkside. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. I hope you had an amazing summer. I would like to congratulate the collaboration of the town, CP and EXO of the improvement at the Sherbrooke-Westminster crossing. It makes such a big difference. Good job. I would like to congratulate the town recreation department, pool and camp teams for their amazing work over the decades as the season comes to a final close, and now looking forward to an amazing future for the town. First question is the town able to save the sign that says Legion Rink to put it in the new facility as a reminder of the old one? And second question, will the town have the arena open on the last day of the pool to allow people to have a final walkthrough of the facility? In terms of the first question, there are some components of the old arena that will make its way into the new Sports and Recreation Center. Some old components may be sold too. All that's to be determined. I'm not sure if we can take down the Legion Rink sign, though, Julian, because I think it's actually glued to the wall. Second question, I don't know, Colleen, if you want to answer it.
Yeah, well, there was no specific walkthrough of the old arena when the pool closed, but anybody who did come up to the door of the arena on the last day and wanted to go inside and look was invited in so they could have a little look. So that's it.
Thank you very much, Councillor Feeney.
We'll start.
Next question, Franco Polko, 191 Wolseley Avenue North. Will construction of the building on Westminster across from the municipal building be finished on time? The last time frame that I was made aware of was called for the building to be finished towards the end of November, middle of December. That's the last information I had. Next question, Donna McLaughlin, 156 Ballantyne South. The dog park has fallen into complete disrepair. There are holes and tree branches covering the ground. The earth has eroded so far as to cover the sand run track. Under picnic tables, weeds have overgrown the grass, the tree wells, and the cedars. A tree was cut down and its trunk is blocking the dog run. The sand now is scattered everywhere and debris fills the park. Each week the dog park gets worse. Now it will take a complete overhaul. What is the reason for this neglect? Please help. Councillor Yulin, please.
Thanks for your question, Donna. Public Works is in there every Tuesday and Thursday to do maintenance, but I will make them aware of your comments here. And I know that they'll look into the holes and moving of a tree that had fallen. So thanks for your question. We'll make sure that gets to Public Works.
Thank you very much, Councillor Yulin. Next question from Ania Barnes, 433 Hudson Avenue. How do you dispose of defective air conditioners and electronics? Councillor Yulin?
Yes, thanks. Thanks for your question, Aria. So for the electronics, we have something called an electroback in the arena. Well, actually, that's a good question now. I don't know where they're going to put it. I'm going to have to get back to you on that one. We do actually have a disposal unit for electronics. It formerly lived in the arena, but now I think it's going to have to live somewhere else. So I'll get back to you on where it's going to be. Air conditioners, though, should not be put out in the garbage. You should take that to the Eco Center. The closest one for us is in LaSalle on St. Patrick, and they can dispose of it properly. Thanks for your question.
Can I just add one thing? There is a website, I think it's called myelectronics.ca, and they do recycle all electronics. So if you have anything, you can look it up. And also Savao, another wonderful site, and they tell you what to do with what items, and everything there is recyclable.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Next questions, there's two people asking the same question. Suzanne Levitz, 250 Percival, and Julie Foreman, 251 Ballantyne North. They want to know what's going to happen with the winter dog park at Hodgson Field during the construction of the new sports complex. Will it be relocated? Councillor Lauren Small, Pennefather, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for the question. So, of course, we've had the temporary dog park at Hodgkins Field. It's been quite successful. Currently under discussion. Of course, we can't guarantee that we will be able to have a temporary winter dog park for the period where the construction is taking place, but we will do our best to continue discussions to see if we can find a solution. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next question comes from James Koblenz, 60 Nelson North. As we have small children, we would like to know if the city can zone can zone parking near the construction site for residents with parking permits, preferably residents from each block being allocated a zone near their home to ensure adequate spaces are available. Second, we would like to ensure that the trucks serving this site are routed on Bedbrook as well as Nelson. So we will be having a meeting with the residents in the area, but residents with parking permits will have new places accorded to them during the construction. And in terms of parking, I can actually verify the routes. I don't know the answer offhand. Next question comes from Eliane Rubin and from Julie Foreman as well, concerning the, hello, when will the traffic lights at the corner of Avon and Westminster be fixed? It's already a busy intersection with several close calls since the lights became flashing red. But with all this Royal West and Loyola kids starting next week, it's even more of a critical situation for it to be fixed. If not fixed by Wednesday when school starts, what will be done to ensure the safety of the people at the intersection? Councillor Lawrence Malpennefather, please.
Thank you for your question, Julie and Eliane. I'm happy to report that it was actually repaired today. As you know, the accident where the truck collided with the pole occurred around the same time as the construction holiday, and we had a difficult time getting a contractor. There were several interventions that had to take place, a pole that needed to be repaired, cement that needed to be repaired, and wiring as well. So we were able to get someone, we were able to get the repair done today.
Can I add something? You cross there just to come here, because the sidewalk is blocked, so you have to go on the other side and cross back. They left all the stop signs and the lights are on. So we almost got killed because someone went through, the other one stopped, and so something has to be done.
We'll make sure, yeah.
There's at least 4 to 5 stop signs up.
Thank you.
And the lights are up.
Thank you. Next question comes from Valmar Coural, 63 Courtney Drive. I noticed this summer for the first time that there were several tanker trains crossing Westminster Avenue. Is this something new, and is the town aware of what they are carrying? I thought this was a passenger track. Second one, how will the special taxes on the new hockey rink be calculated? Is it based on fixed cost amortization per property, or just paid out of general taxes on assessments that will likely increase? When does it start? So in terms of the first one, the tracks at Westminster are passenger-only tracks. When you see a tanker train rolling past, they're usually what they call ballast trains. They're used to compact the tracks after there's been some repairs. In terms of the second question, Colleen, please.
Yes, the amount of tax for the new recreation center will be determined once we go for a loan and we have our interest rates, and then basically it's going to be the amount that's needed each year to service the debt, and that of course will be based on your property valuation. That should remain fairly stable, except for every 5 years when we every 3 years when we go back to reevaluate the loan, and it will start when we take out the loan. Thank you very much for your question, Mr. Corral.
Next questions, again, multiple people asked the same question. Matthew Sherrard, 139 Brock South, and Jennifer Melnick, 140 Ballantyne South. Speed bumps on Ballantyne South and Brock South below Avon were removed at the beginning of the summer. When will these speed bumps be replaced? Councillor Yulin, please.
Yes, thank you very much for your question, Matthew and Jennifer. Well, I know we've got speed bumps that we need to replace on Brock North and also Brock South and Ballantyne South. So the ones on Brock North will be replaced this fall. And the ones on Brock South and Ballantyne South, we're looking for some interim solution there. But the permanent, we're looking for the permanent speed bumps to go back there in the spring of '24. But in the interim, we're looking for something else we can put there to have it be a safer area. Thanks very much for your question, Matthew and Jennifer.
Thank you very much. Maureen McCormick, 145 Wolseley North. Given the events of July 13th, it's clear that the town's infrastructure and Montreal's cannot support and handle heavy rain that happens over a short period. Some Montreal-West homes continually experience flooding, while others experienced it for the first time. Since the new rec center is shortly going forward, there will be a lot of diggers and heavy machines already in place for an extended period. Could the town evaluate the opportunity this presents to consider a reservoir of some kind under the adjacent field? It's a very valid point, Maureen. Retention basins are a very useful tool to deal with these sudden and damaging rains. We've actually already put one in when we redid Fenwick. We put one in what we call the Little Triangle Park. The limitations is that they have to be like downflow of where the flow is. So up at Hodgins, there's no fields, there's no houses that flow into that retention basin. So if there was space to do something further down, it would be very, very useful. And in terms of like what's the granting, we're continually applying for grants. The next grant that we'll be receiving is the gas tax. Next question, Robert Barnes, 227 Bedbrook. Any demolition of this magnitude concerning the Sports and Recreation Center will displace rodents who will seek nearby structures to inhabit. My altruistic interest in protecting the Public Works office next door to the Legion Rink and my self-interest in protecting residential homes in the immediate area inspire me to seek confirmation that extermination is a major feature of the current preparation for demolition. Thank you. Dr. Barnes, it's a very valid concern, and we will have transmitted this to the contractor. We're going to remind people not to put out poison yourselves, because what all that does is we have a lot of dogs in the towns. The poison that you put out, that way the dogs may get into and may be fatal to them. Next question, Norbert Berdusha, 457 Wolseley Avenue. Given that the entire council voted for the rec center, and given that 42% of the town voted against it, where is the representation or voice of the 42% in council? Traffic in the area of Westminster between Curzon and Avon is a disaster. When will council or a member thereof reach out to NDG, Côte Saint Luc, and Lachine to try and find a solution to those municipalities using Montreal-West as a thoroughfare to and from the highways? Maybe we should charge a fee like Montreal does. In terms of your first question, we represent the whole town, that we were all in favor of this rec center. It's got nothing to do with it, really, quite honestly. 42% were not in favor of it, 58% were. We govern for everybody, not just the for or the against. So we're going to continue working in that vein. Traffic in the area, Councillor Small Pennefather, please.
Thank you for your question, Mr. Baducha. I just wanted to reiterate, as you know, you also sat on the previous iteration of what was then called the Traffic Safety Committee, which is now the Community Safety Committee. And I do concur with your idea about NDG, Côte Saint Luc, and Lachine to try to find solutions with regards to the issues we have on Westminster. So it is my plan to either have annual meeting or semi-annual meetings with those municipalities so that we can talk or discuss some of the issues that are going on in Westminster, because as we know, many people who use that as a way of transiting through to get to Ville Saint-Pierre and to get to other highways, it's a lot of non-Montreal-West residents, so we do need to come up with some solutions, and our Community Safety Committee continues to work on some solutions as well that we'll be presenting in the fall for Westminster. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next question, again, there were two people asking the same question. Leanne Hogan, 70 Westminster, Apartment 1, and Peter Cooney, 101 Brock South. The SPVM cars speeding down Westminster. I have lived on Westminster for the past 12 years. In the past 2 years, police cars speed down Westminster when responding to cars at significant speeds, easily going 75 to 80. I would like to know if any measures have been taken to get police to slow down on calls, especially through the section from Curzon to Avon streets. This is a particularly busy pedestrian stretch with multiple crosswalks, train traffic, and many students. As an emergency nurse, it's only a matter of time until someone is hit or worse, killed. And Mr. Cooney mentions the same thing basically on police cars driving too fast on Avon, especially near Brock and Avon itself. Councillor Small Pennefather, please.
Thank you for your question, Leanne and Mr. Cooney. We have brought this and raised this to the attention of SPVM. We do have an SPVM Station 9 representative that sits on our community security committee with us. She's made aware, as well as the commandant, myself, the mayor, and our acting town DG, Valentina Torres. Dan also met with the new commandant of Station 9. We also brought this to his attention to let him know that this is a concern. We have young families, we have seniors we have a lot of pets and dogs that are walked as well. You know that the Station 9 does serve Montreal-West, Hampstead, Côte Saint Luc, and NDG. And unfortunately, Westminster is one of the through streets that they do use in case of an emergency. And we have alerted them to this fact. I just want to, so I'm sure people are aware that, you know, many of the police officers are trained, in driving vehicles at at high speeds, but they are aware, and through our little town it is a concern. So we'll continue to try to find some solutions, but we are aware that when there is an emergency, they do need to respond, and they find themselves on Westminster often, and we will continue to have that dialogue. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next question asked by two people, Jennifer Melnick and Merle McPhail, 8023 Avon, asking about a manhole covers that was repositioned on Avon and Brock South. It's still an issue and it has popped off again. Councillor Yulin, please.
Thanks very much for your question, Jennifer and Merle. I inquired about the manhole cover that you're speaking of. Evidently, it's not the covers that are missing, but it's the opening that needs to be adjusted for the covers, and that work is scheduled to be done in the fall. So hopefully, it will be done shortly. Thanks for your questions.
Thank you very much. Next question comes from Paul Kenton, 70 Brock North. What is the interest rate for the construction loan for the new rec center? Hopefully, in the interest of transparency, the town will be segregating and itemizing costs for the project. When will the town be posting the list of contracts over $25,000 for 2022 on the town website? Available data extends only to the end of 2021. Councillor Feeney, please.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for your question, Paul. First of all, we don't know the interest rate because we haven't gone for the loan yet. When we go to bid for the loan, then we will know the interest rate. Certainly, we'll make it public. It's actually passed at a public meeting, so that will be you'll be very aware of that. And also, as I do every meeting, I will be detailing the total cost that we're going to be spending on the recreation center on a monthly basis. So definitely, those costs will be segregated. We certainly want to know them ourselves. On the second one about the contracts, yes, on the website we do have a list already of the suppliers for whom we've paid over $25,000 for the past for 2022. The SEAO, which is the public tender website, had to be updated, and thank you for your comment. We did update that today. In 2022, there were three bids for contracts over $25,000, and they're up on the website now. So thank you very much for your question.
Thank you very much. Next question comes from Farah Isa, 307 Ronald. When will the city clear the bushes overgrowth on Avon Road sidewalk south of Westminster in order that families or pedestrians could go safely without moving into upcoming traffic? Also, some fallen traffic signals. Number two, same as above, but on Ronald Drive sidewalk where overgrown plants hinder pedestrians from walking. Councillor Yulin, please.
Thanks very much for your question, Farah. I'm going to need a little bit more information from you, if I could, on exactly where these bushes are you're describing. Because depending on where they are, it's either a public issue, and that would be our public workers would have to trim them, or it's a private issue, and that would mean we'd have to contact the residents and tell them they have to trim the bushes that are now overhanging the sidewalk. So if you can contact me by email through the town, I'd appreciate it. And once we have identified exactly where these bushes are you're speaking of, we'll deal with the problem. Thanks very much for your question.
Thank you very much. Question from Brian Benedetti, 22 Brock South. Following the avoidable flood on July 14th on Brock South due to a broken water main, 11 households that experienced extensive flooding damage jointly and severally filed claims with the City of Montreal, which owns the pipe, and the Town of Montreal-West, on which territory the pipe rests. Neither jurisdiction has officially determined liability. When will Montreal-West take some supportive action on the claim for compensation by its Brock South citizens and establish liability in this case? After filing the claim with their insurance company, the insurance company themselves will file their claims with Montreal and or Montreal-West, and the liability is determined between all the insurance companies at that point. Last question from Stan Carney, 449 Wolseley. New leaf blower bylaw came effective November 1st. Does this bylaw electric blower apply only to residents or gardeners and landscapers as well? Notice that a blind eye was turned when it came to the frequency concerning usage of said blowers by non-citizens. Will the same apply as well to electric blowers? Is there a grace period? Councillor Yulin, please.
Thanks very much for your question, Mr. Carney. So the new leaf blower ban of gas leaf blowers goes into effect November 1st, and that's for residents and also landscapers who work in Montreal-West. I take issue with the fact that we've turned a blind eye. I don't believe we have done so, but certainly there's no grace period per se on November 1st. You're allowed to use a leaf blower for the whole month of November, but only an electric one, not a gas one any longer. So thanks for your question.
Thank you very much, Councillor Yulin, and that finishes the first question period. Councillor Feeney wanted to make an adjustment to her report.
I just wanted to, it was pointed out to me by one of the members of my MATA committee that I made a mistake on the date of the seniors consultation. It is not the 14th of October, it is indeed the 21st of October, as reported in the Informer. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Councillor Feeney. We're going to move on to number 9, contracts in the town clerk's office, an agreement with the Montreal SPCA.
Whereas the Montreal Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, SPCA, offers a range of services related to domestic and wild animals that come in support of municipalities' public security mission. Whereas the Montreal SPCA provides such services to many boroughs and municipalities on the island. Whereas the Montreal SPCA has offered to conclude an agreement with the town of Montreal-West establishing their mutual rights and obligations. Whereas the conditions of this agreement have been reviewed and discussed between both parties. Therefore, I move 1, that the proposed agreement with the Montreal SPCA be approved for a term governing the years 2023 and 2024. 2, that the price for the services of the SPCA be $7,392 yearly, subject to adjustment following the Consumer Price Index for Montreal in January 2024. And 3, that the interim Director General be authorized to sign this agreement on behalf of the town.
Thank you very much, Councillor Small-Pen. If Father can have a seconder, please.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I second that.
Thank you very much, Councillor Feeney. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Recognition of West End Intergenerational Network as a resident non-profit organization.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Whereas the town is part of a province-wide group of municipalities headed by the Union des Municipalités du Québec, UMQ, for the purpose of obtaining affordable insurance coverages for non-profit organizations that are operating within the territory of these municipalities. Whereas this insurance program is a distinct contract from the town's own insurance coverages, so the experience of the participating nonprofit organization, NPO, does not impact on the town's record and premiums. Whereas the West End Intergenerational Network, WIN, is an NPO having its seat in Montreal-West and wishes to be enrolled in the UMQ program. Whereas this NPO, which has been operating informally since 2017 and was incorporated in 2023, also services Notre-Dame-de-Grâce and adjacent areas. Whereas it seeks to facilitate collaboration and the sharing of resources among community partners in order to foster the creation of innovative programs connecting seniors and young people in many constructive ways. Therefore, I move, first, that the town acknowledge WIN as a resident organization in Montreal-West for the sole purpose of enabling it to be enrolled in the UMQ insurance program for NPO. And secondly, that this recognition does not imply any further entitlements for WIN, nor any other commitments on the part of the town, it being understood that the said NPO in particular shall assume the payment of insurance premiums and comply with any obligations imposed by the UMQ program.
Thank you very much, Councillor Feeney. Can I have a seconder, please?
I second that.
Thank you very much, Councillor Yulin. All in favor, please.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Amendement de la résolution 2023-01-30-004 concernant M. Clifford Jordan.
Bon. Oui, Monsieur le maire, je propose que le dispositif de la résolution 200-301-31-004 soit remplacé par le suivant. Que la ville de Montréal-Ouest verse un montant de $2,000 à la campagne de sociofinancement GoFundMe Medic in Distress, Helping Clifford Jordan.
Merci, la conseillère Yulin. Je peux avoir l'appui, s'il vous plaît?
Oui, je l'appuie.
Merci, la conseillère Torres. Tout en faveur, s'il vous plaît.
Oui.
Oui.
Merci. Disposal of used recreation items.
Oh, so it's me again. So whereas the upcoming demolition and the reconstruction project of the recreation center make it necessary to identify what items should be retained for the new center and which are not. Whereas the recreation coordinator has identified a list of used items that are of little value and has ascertained with the treasurer that none of them is worth more than $200, whereas it is deemed appropriate to proceed without administrative formalities to the disposal, since the costs for selling them would otherwise exceed the proceeds. I move that the Director General be authorized to organize, publicize, determine the conditions for selling the items mentioned in the preamble of this resolution, and to decide whether some may be disposed of in case there is practically no interest in purchasing them.
Thank you very much, Councillor Yulin. Can I have a seconder, please?
I second it.
Thank you very much, Councillor Torres. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Approval of disbursements June 24 to August 25, 2023.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I move that the list of accounts payable from June 24th to August 25th, 2023, totaling $1,491,371.05, be approved and paid as listed.
Thank you very much, Councillor Feeney. Seconder, please.
I second the motion, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Small-Pennefather. All in favor, please.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Delegation of powers for the month of July and August 2023.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the report of the Director General concerning the exercise of powers delegated under bylaw number 2005-002 for the month of July and August 2023.
Thank you very much, Councillor Yulin. Can I have a seconder, please?
I second it.
Thank you very much, Councillor Torres. All in favor, please.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Urban Department Site Planning Projects and Architectural Integration Program.
I move to acknowledge receipt of the minutes of a meeting held by the Planning Advisory Committee, PAC, on August 23rd, 2023. Secondly, to approve with conditions under the SBAIP the following plans submitted to this meeting in accordance with the recommendations of the PAC as outlined in the minutes. 19 Garden, replacement of the railing of the front stairs. 78 Percival, replacement of fascia gutters and soffits. 45 Westminster South, replacement of proposed metal cladding on the mezzanine for the new construction. Thirdly, to defer the examination of the following plans to the next meeting of this council in accordance with the recommendations of the PAC as outlined in the minutes. 45 Ainsley, replacement of one window by two windows, replacement of a regular door and side lights by a patio door, and removal of the canopy above, installation of a skylight. And 45 Westminster South, replacement of proposed brick for the new construction.
Thank you very much, Councillor Torres. Seconder, please.
I second the motion, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Small-Pennefather. All in favor, please.
Aye.
Thank you. Nomination d'une contremaître.
Oui, je propose que M. Christopher Baumel soit nommé au poste de contremaître à compte du 5 septembre 2023, sujet à une approbation de 6 mois.
Merci, la conseillère Torres. Je peux avoir l'appui, s'il vous plaît.
Oui, je l'appuie.
Merci, la conseillère Feeney. Tout en faveur, s'il vous plaît.
Oui.
Merci. We're going right to the second question period. You're more than welcome to stand up and ask a question. Same thing, 2 questions. This one will be only 10 minutes, and it's only on items pertaining to what was in the agenda. Can I have somebody move to close the meeting, please? Oh, sorry. I'm sorry about that.
Brian Benedetti, 22 Brock South. Mayor Masala, the report that you read tonight to begin the meeting, may we have a copy of that?
Sure. If I'm not mistaken, that becomes part of the public document. So yeah, and if you want, I could send it along to that group email if that makes it easier for you.
Excellent.
Okay, I'll do that.
Okay.
Thank you. Can I have somebody move to close the meeting, please?
Oui, Monsieur le Maire, je propose de lever la séance.
Merci, la conseillère Small-Pennefather. Je peux avoir l'appui, s'il vous plaît?
Je l'appuie.
Merci, la conseillère Feeney. Excuse-moi, la conseillère Torres. Tout en faveur, s'il vous plaît.
Oui.
Merci. Thank you very much, folks.